Ned is here
Yeah.
also.
Streaming live na po. Got it? And I think we're live. Hold on, I'm just gonna join via Facebook as well so that I can see the audience. Wait. Gonna dial in. Where is it?
Pa-help na lang. Naka-single mobile lang ako ngayon.
Opo.
Can't see the post.
Bro.
So, are we live na?
Ayan na
Yes,
po.
we are live
Yes,
already.
we are
all.
Ay, teka.
Good afternoon, mga Kapix Pro.
As of now, we have 2 viewers.
Natin, ha? Ayan na natin, marami na siya. Hala, ang ingay po. Teka lang, i-mute ko lang po. Na.
Shout out sa initial 2 viewers.
Parang
Early bird.
ako yun sa si AVP Frenzy. Yan, 5 na tayo. Kasama na si President, si Miss May, and I think si Sir Ned.
Sige, let's
Yes.
wait for others to join as well.
Hi, May. Hi, Ned.
Hi, sir. Good
Hi,
afternoon,
Paul.
everyone.
Yes.
It's okay. So, syempre, shout out kay Mr. Bossing Wendell Palalon. Wendell, ba't wala ka dito, ha? Ikaw,
Hello, Sir
Baka
Wendell.
nag-golf.
Sir Wendell.
Baka nag-golf, nagpa-practice.
Nagpa-practice
Ready for
ba?
that. too.
O, si Mo, Wendell, ba't nandito watching with you? O talaga,
Thank you.
Wendell. Kasi magpayaman tong si Wendell, eh. Ayaw, mate. Marco, please forgive us if we would speak in Tagalog.
No problem. I'm learning.
You're learning, you are. Really? So you have tried balloon?
Yeah,
Tried already?
I have a lot of friends. Yeah.
And
I
you
have a lot of Filipino friends.
Oh.
Right.
Are you based in Singapore?
Yeah.
You are.
Yan,
Ay, sagot
medyo
na si Sir
dumadami na yung
Wendell,
ating
Press
viewers.
Gen. Oh, I prefer to be bakit charot? Go,
Parang
wait.
hindi naman, Sir Wendell. Ang galing yung mag-dance ni Sir Wendell the last time.
Ay,
Yung ating,
hala!
di ba?
Na-record nyo ba yung sayawan ni Wendell? I-post ko natin, hindi natin natin kung makapag-join siya.
Itatag ko na.
Iba-blackmail natin. Pag hindi ka na-join, i-post namin online yung mga paggiling mo nung Thanksgiving, Wendell.
Makikita ng madami.
Feeling
Hindi ko
ko,
inabutan yun.
nagsasayaw
Parang
siya.
hindi ko
Parang,
inabutan.
walang sinabi ang, tawag dito?
Maneuvers, ma'am.
Maneuvers.
Street boys. Oh,
Ala.
Ano ba?
Universal motion
Halo kayo,
dancer.
di ba?
UMD.
UMD. Alam mo, hinihingit na ang lahat, nasa dance floor pa siya.
correct. Ang sakit na ng
Iba-
tuhod namin,
ibang
pero siya
stamina.
tuloy-tuloy pa din.
Sinabayan lang yung
Ah.
yung energy ni Press Gen.
Iba po. Kasi yung
Ibang level.
natin sa lambot, sobrang pagpapakulo. Yung pressure cooker.
Ay, pressure ko kayo.
Ay, nako. Ay, sige, mag-shoutout na muna tayo, no? AVP Frenzy. Siguro, ayan, may mga...
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, shout out kay Mr. Monstack. So, hello daw.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello po. And may pa-heart na si Miss Jesusa Pangatihon Ampunan. Hello po.
Heart.
Lisa Monte, good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon din, sir. And
Si
of
Sir
course,
Pong-
with the technical head ng Itraverse, Sir George. Hello dyan sa'yo, Sir George.
Hi, Sir George.
O, kita mo naman, meron pa tayo.
George.
viewers from
Long time
Isabela
no here,
pala.
George.
Si Sir George may patak fan bag.
Yeah.
Hello, VP Alex.
Hi, Sir
VP
Alex.
VP Alex. Basta, bro.
Alam mo, ito yung mga panahon, naririnig yung pagtahol ng aso namin. Meron pa dito yung pag-ano ng manok namin. At ito yung mga panahon, kamukha niyan, meron nasa gate, Shopee delivery. Hindi ko alam kung bakit sa mga panahon to, kung kailan ako naka-live, diyan sila nag-aanuhan yung mga Shopee at Lazada.
Gusto maki-join.
Busy
Gusto
nga.
malaman kung anong
Ay,
gusto nila
yes.
gusto nila maki-join maki-cybersecurity.
Gusto magpa-shoutout.
Sir Apple, gusto nilang marinig
Ah.
kung ano ang topic natin for today.
At least tech savvy sila, ma'am.
Oo.
Ito kasi
Kailangan
migrating
ma-identify
Apple.
mo ang aso sa manok sa Shopee. Identity.
So, binibigyan na tayo ng clue ni VP Apple kung ano yung topic natin. So sabi niya, kailangan natin sa pagtahol, sa pagkahol, sa pagtilaok,
Oo.
kailangan malaman mo.
Kailangan malaman kung sino.
Oo. Paano yun kung Shopee at Lazada? Meron ba tayong clues kung...
Ayun,
Ano?
yun yung medyo matindi na, 'di ba? Tapos malalaman mo kung ano i-deliver niya.
Correct. Tsaka depende kung babayaran mo o bayad na. Yun yung mahirap din kasi
Ayun.
ma-detect. Pero may clue ako dyan. Kapag pangalan ko, bayad yun for sure. Pagka asawa ko or mga anak ko, for sure hindi yan bayad. Ako na naman din tawagin yan.
Andiyan naman daw ikaw, ma'am.
Surprise ka na lang.
Oy, ayan. Hello po. Chairman, Angel Redoble. Good afternoon.
Magandang
Hi,
hapon.
Mr.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon. Miss ka na namin.
Yeah. Sabi ni Mr. Chair, ang gaganda at pogi talaga ang NCR chapter. Ay nako naman si Mr. Chair, napaka-honest. Ba't naman ganun?
Na-miss ka na rin po ng Pix Pro Jacket ko. Alam mo, we have 10 NCR Tech partners at lucky talaga itong Itraverse, huli man daw at magaling. Ngayon ko lang ito nalabhan. Sa siyam na nakalipas, hindi ko ito nilaban jacket na to. Ito bagong laba to, May, ha?
Ma'am, wearing na may jacket here. There. Proud to be
yan.
wearing the Fix Pro jacket.
Sige nga, singutin mo nga. Pagka
Kamay
na-hatching ka,
downy pa
hindi
daw,
totoo
sir.
yan.
Kamay
Pag
downy.
na-hatching ka, hindi totoo
Downy.
yan.
Ayan. Hello din po kay VP Reese. So, ngayon po
Hi,
ay...
Piris.
Paano po yan? 5:03 na ng hapon, no? Huwag nating sayangin ng
Yep.
mga sandaling ito para matuto at magkaroon ng kaalaman na naman. So good afternoon po, our online community. NCR Core welcomes you to our Kwentuhang Cybersecurity once again. At kanina nagbibigay na ng mga hints si VP Apple kung ano po ang topic natin for today. So later on, our VP Jessie, AVP Francie will introduce our sponsor and our speaker for today. Pero bigyan ko lang po kayo ng clue what is it all about since the post naman na online. In fact, yes, we were gonna talk about today is IGA, which is Identity Governance and Administration. So two parts yun. So combined yun, of course, Identity Governance and Identity Administration. And maybe we're gonna talk about the modern landscape and how we can dwell with it. What is the impact in having the modern landscape to us to be secure pa rin, even if maraming cyber attacks with an unknown identity. Of course, when the pandemic hit us, it is when we suddenly immersed ourselves with the digital world, no, nang biglaan, and of course that is growth, but then again that also imposed a lot of attacks or threats for us, and how our security professionals are securing that organization, and that's what we want to know today. Okay, so I am very excited, but let me give you the floor, VP Jessie, AVP Francie, to introduce our speaker for today.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, President. But first, I'd like to acknowledge lang the presence ng ating technology partner. So, hi po, Miss May Mangabat. So, she is the head sales department for Itraverse. And also, we have here Sir Ned Cerate, the consulting principal from Magifura. So, hello, good afternoon po, Miss May and Sir Ned.
Yeah,
Yan,
good afternoon,
so-
everyone.
Magandang hapon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon po. Yan. So, as mentioned by President, so our topic for today is about modernizing your legacy identity governance and administration or IGA solution for the cloud. So the highlights lang nung session natin is that keeping up with the evolving identity landscape and understanding top challenges faced by legacy IGA systems, best practices for planning organization-wide upgrades, and tips to kickstart your IGA modernization journey in the cloud. And to introduce the speaker for today, so I'll give the floor to AVP Francie. So go ahead, AVP Francie.
Yeah, of course. So together with us, our speaker, Mr. Marco Zhang. So he has over 2 decades of experience in driving excellence in sales and engineering team. So dalawa kagad to, sales and engineering. So prior to joining Saviynt, he worked as at software giants such as Oracle, Sun Microsystem, Dell Software, Dimension Data, and top identified vendors such as One Identity, Beyond Trust, and Centrify. So empowering product improvement and efficient project deployment across Asia Pacific. So currently at Saviynt, he heads the regional sales engineering department, helping enterprises improve their security posture against internal and external threats. So he holds a master degree in mechanical engineering, master degree in communication software and network, CISSP, PMP professional certification. So that's what Mr. Marco, yeah. So I think Mr.
Thank you,
Marco,
Francie.
Hello, Marco.
Thank you, Francie, for introduction, and I'm really honored to be invited to share my idea here, and hopefully everybody will enjoy and get insight here from the presentation. And without further ado, let me just get started and share my presentation here. All right. I hope everyone can see the presentation slides here.
Yes, we're excited.
Great.
Marco.
Thank you. So yeah, so what I'm going to do to take you guys through in the next 20 to 30 minutes to take you guys through how do we see the modern landscape of identity governance administrations, and what do we really plan out to do from enterprise perspective. As Jennifer just summarized really spot on earlier on, is the recent changes in terms of the landscapes and the explosion of the digital identity in our world, especially for the last 2-3 years of COVID, which really accelerated the digital transformation as a result of that, and increased the number of digital identities, especially in our enterprise world. And as a stakeholder in the enterprise or any kind of business, we are all facing the similar kind of issues of changes and movement. For example, every organization need to deal with the user movement of onboarding and offboarding and changes in terms of personnel, and also need to deal with the business changes of introduce merger and acquisition, which result in merging and mess around with the new processes and the new applications. And also throughout the growth of your business, the introduction of new applications, new products, new system, and new environment, all these results in the changes in terms of especially around the managing of the identities. Now, why are we so concerned about the identity here? So in today's world, really, there's really no fixed boundary anymore, unlike the olden days, where everything is segregated. If you can't get into the door, and you pretty much can't really do anything, can't do any harm to the corporate environment. However, in today's environment, and there's only one boundary here. The only parameter here is the identity and the access. As you can imagine, you only need to get one individual to be able to access to your environments and get elevated the person themselves and get access to the critical infrastructure and critical applications to be able to steal the data and infiltrate your environment. So managing and govern those identity is a very critical consideration for every big and large organization, and every identities that really represent a attack surface in all the organization. So with that, we would like to really look at what's really happening in what we are facing today. And in the last year or two, especially moving forward to 2023, and one common themes that we have been seeing is the digital transformation. And the digital the result of the digital transformation result in adoption of multi-cloud environment. So without really explaining too much, is the benefit of the moving into the cloud, of reducing your operational costs, and adopting the new technology much faster, and better user experience. And a lot of organizations do not want to put all the eggs in one basket, and therefore they are adopting the multi-cloud strategy or even hybrid cloud strategies. And with that, your application need to be moved, and many people are not really aware is the introduction of cloud and will result in the introduction of more workloads and more identities. And the traditional way of looking at the identity can be different, because some organizations do not have to deal with the underlying infrastructure anymore, do not need to really manage the databases, the operating system, the applications, servers, etc. So the only things that need to focus is the actual business application itself. So the way to manage and govern the identities could be very different compared to the old days. The other thing is machine identities. So one very important concept you need to understand is what is really the machine identities. So you have an email account, you have access login into maybe your sales applications, maybe your HR applications, and those are considered identity, but those are personal identities. And those identities come and go when you join organization, when you leave the organization, those identities will go away. And they do really have a very clear definition of ownership. But machine identity, on the other hand, is representing non-human. Sometimes we call it silicon identities. They are used by the applications, they are used by the machines, they are used by your API calls, they are used by maybe by CI/CD pipeline tools. So those identities do not really come and go with the employee or contractors when they join or leave the organization. They will be there as long as your application is running, your system is running, right? So as you can see, there are so many different type of identity, and most critically is those identities actually has very powerful permissions or privilege inside your application system. If those identities are not managed well, it can easily cause a problem in your environment. So there was a study that reports says that there are average 250,000 of machine identities in the environment in every big and large organization. So this number is really scary. And the important thing is many organizations don't even know how many machine identities they have. They don't even know what those machine identities are, and don't even know how those machine identities are being used today. So it's totally in the blind side. So what we really need to do is to have an effective way to, again, have a picture of what those machine identities are in your environment. So another thing is, don't forget about your contractors. Now, lots of organizations are engaging the third-party vendors or third-party contractors to interact with them, to do business with them, to manage their environments. And many organizations are really starting to outsource their IT environment to the third-party contractors, or maybe they have a business partnership with another vendor to conduct business. Now, all these third-party users, they will need to have some sort of access to your enterprise applications to to do the work. So, and what is it different compared to the workforce identities in your enterprise environments? Your workforce identities typically are much easier to manage and govern, because if you join an organization, your data is in the HR system. When you leave the organization, you will be notified by the HR, and then the HR can notify the IT departments to remove your access. However, workforce is totally entire story, a different story. Imagine I'm working for the organizations and doing a project for the organization and in Saviynt. If I leave the Saviynt, that organization will not even know that I am leaving Saviynt, and my access likely will still be there for another weeks or months. And very common is that my kind of access may have a high privilege if I'm doing a maintenance work, if I'm doing application management. So my kind of access will be able to, for example, make changes to the applications and make configuration changes and modify certain important critical data in the critical asset. And then the other thing is how can we have a better ways to manage those third-party onboarding, offboarding process, because business can't wait for those third-party to come into an environment to help to do the business, and you need to take 3 to 4 weeks in order to get all the accesses are ready. So productivity is a critical measurement here in terms of third-party access. And as you can see, some of the very well-known logo here, like Target, Morgan Stanley, they recently had a huge breaches, and all these breaches are really caused by the third-party accesses. So this is something definitely any organization shouldn't overlook them. Now, zero trust, and I'm sure most of you have heard about zero trust and talk about zero trust. I think last year and this year is really a time that organizations start seriously looking at zero trust and really act on those zero trust and implementing the technology and the controls and processes to have a zero trust principle to be enforced in the environment. But very briefly, as you can see on the left-hand side, in the old days, the legacy cybersecurity is really has a well-defined parameters surrounds it, and organization trust is implied. So whoever has access in your environment, or joint organizations are implicitly trusted. Now, with the new era, and this whole boundary has been totally dismantled, especially in the cloud hybrid environment. And anyone can access anything to anywhere, as long as you have your appropriate identities and credentials, like earlier on, like I mentioned in the beginning. Now, so we need to establish a new way to enforce the control, enforce the processes. So, and every organization should really try to look into the zero trust framework and start thinking about how this zero trust should be implemented in the organization. Right, and another very interesting trend here is the converged identity platform. So in all day, again, many organizations are adopting different kind of identity solutions. There will be identity solutions that manage the authentication, manage single sign-on. There are identity solutions that manages the privilege access. There are identity solutions that may perhaps manage the secrets of those machine identities. So they will have different kind of technologies, different platform altogether. Some are in the cloud, some are in the on-premises environment, some may be even managed by your outsourced vendors. However, those identity solutions don't really talk to each other, and you can't leverage on the intelligence of all the data that gathered by all the identity platforms, and so that you can have unified platforms to really manage all kind of identity with a consistent manner. So this is actually is also what Gartner predicted. In fact, this year, almost half of the customer or the vendor is moving into a converged methodology and platform, having one single platform, be able to manage all kind of identities and different fashion of identity, different processes of identities, whether they are single sign-on, whether they are a privilege access, whether they are machine identities or governance, identity governance. So having a converged platforms that helps to streamline the identity management process and reduce the cost of integrations, and so that the organization can focus on what really matters to them. With the introduction of the cloud and the new application in the cloud and the merger and acquisition, and we still see a very inefficient process in terms of lifecycle management. So as you can see, the concept of lifecycle management is very simple. It's all about onboarding, getting access in no time, and then you need to move around the organization, change your roles. Your access need to be appropriately adjusted. And then when you leave the organization, most importantly, your access need to be removed or disabled in the timely manner. Now, so we still are seeing many organizations, especially in Asia Pacific region and in Southeast Asia areas, many organizations are not really taking this seriously, and many organizations are still dealing with this kind of processes manually. And you can imagine the inefficiency of doing these sort of things manually. And then when the number of employee grows, when the number of application grows in your environment, you can imagine how difficult that the process it is. A password, I'm not sure how many passwords that every of you are using, and at least a last count myself, other than the credential I use in Saviynt, and then I also have a couple of hundreds of credentials in my personal credentials, in my Facebook, my chat application, might be personal banking applications, right? And there are questions everybody knows that you should have a very strong password, and however, many people are still having, for example, one password for all your applications, or writing down those passwords. So properly manage those passwords is absolutely very critical, especially in the corporate environment. And the introduction of a password management solution, introduction of consolidated identity solutions absolutely will help you to address those kind of password issues. The privilege access, as I briefly talk about this, is it's no longer the IT people. In fact, almost 40% of employees in a typical organization will have some sort of privilege access. If you are Salesforce administrators, if you are maybe a manager, you will likely have some sort of privilege that not everybody will have. And so these are the people actually will be targeted by the hackers, especially external hackers, because they can easily infiltrate your access and use that access to jump into other critical accesses. So just not to scare you, but if you look at these things, and IT person would understand this, especially from a privilege access management point of view, is in the cloud now, you are no longer just accessing to the operating system, the database, and all this is embedded in your cloud services. And when you have access to cloud services, basically, likely you will have access to all your workload or database behind the scenes. And again, those workloads are dynamic, and each workload will have their own privilege access, privilege accounts. How can you effectively manage those privilege accounts in such a dynamic environment and have a visibility in those workloads is very important. And the misconfiguration of those identity in your environment is something that definitely will be leveraged or misused by the hackers to get into your environment. So privilege identity is another areas that we should definitely cannot avoid. From the compliance point of view, very important is these W questions: who has access to what, and when they have accessed it, and why they need to access those places, and how they got access. But all these will be questioned by your auditor, questioned by your regulators. And if you take this back, and if you work for a big organization and you ask your IT department, ask your compliance teams, how comfortable can you answer all these W questions? If you can't answer those W questions, and likely you will not be able to easily answer this to your regulators, to your auditors, and not to mention the efforts, the process required to get the answer for these W questions, right? So therefore, every enterprise need a new way to reassess how we should manage your identity in your environments, and you must be able to have a strategy, the right technology, the right resources to help you to manage all sort of identity in all different kind of environment. I'm not sure whether you guys heard about this theory about finite games and infinite game. There's a book written by James. I can't remember his last name, about the different kind of games that people play. And finite games, typically we have rules. The purpose of the game is to win. Infinite games is something that the purpose of the game is to stay in a game. It doesn't end. And so Simon Sinek, a famous tech talk person, actually advocates this idea in the corporate environment. So there was a story about Vietnam War, and in the Vietnam War, Vietnam actually has casualty of almost 20,000 civilians and the army, and U.S. alone has almost 60,000 of people died during the Vietnam War. So there are a lot of argument about actually who won the war. And from a U.S. perspective, they think that they won the war because there are many battles there, and then you just compare the number of casualties. Obviously, U.S. won the war, but on the other hand, Vietnam think that they won the war because the U.S. did not achieve their objective during the war, and then they stay on the game again. So the idea here is Vietnam, they fight for survival, and U.S. they fight to win the game. So the same analogy applied to our corporate environments from the IT security point of view. Now, identity management is a program, is a finite games. We need to have a mindset of it's an infinite game. We need to have a mindset of infinite games. Need to stay in the games, not to win the game, because you can't win the game. And the hackers, whether they're insider or outsider, will exist all the time. They evolve, they change. Right, so you can't stop these activities from happening. So we need to have a mindset, need to have a program to help us to address today's ever-changing identity challenges. So this is exactly what Saviynt here help you to do, and this is our visions that help every organization to address their identity issues, whether they are workforce identity, third-party identities, and identity in the machines, identity in the cloud, identity in the on-premises environment, and to have one single solution, the converged platforms in the clouds that help every organization to address these sort of problems with the zero trust models. So from the workforce, a third-party contractor point of view, we need to make sure that not only like old days, just simply deal with the joiner, mover, lever process, and just deal with the automations, and that is given, right? every organization should do that. But most importantly, we need to have a much smarter solution with AI, with the machine learning, with analytics to help you understand what identities are not used, what are the outliers, what are the infrequent use identities, so that we can be more proactive, so that we can optimize our environments to just identity challenge. Identity is, from the governance point of view, we need to have a deep visibilities, and without knowing what you know in the environments, there's no way you can fix a problem. So it's very important to understand not only what workforce identity that each employees and contractors has, but also in the business applications, in those data access application platform, to understand not only who has access to what, but understand what, how the user had access to this, when do they access those applications, what they can do inside each application. That is absolutely very important, because different people may have a different kind of permissions. From a governance point of view, this is it's critical to understand that. And another thing is the least privilege, and this is at the heart of the zero trust principle. Least privilege means that you are only given enough access in each of your applications and system, no more and no less. And least privilege is something that really not easy to fulfill, because a lot of organizations will just find an easy way around. If I need to do, maybe I need to maintain my applications, and I will just give the super admin rights to the users to manage the applications, right? And you need to have a solutions that help you to make sure that you apply the role-based access controls, given only the minimal rights to the user, and also need to time-bound it so that you can apply just-in-time concepts to all the privilege access for all the application and system. And I just mentioned this about just-in-time access. And just-in-time access, depending on what kind of application, depending on which organization, depending on which individual, they may have a different kind of concept or idea. But however, to me, the most important understanding of just-in-time is the zero standing privilege. If you are given your application access, why should you have accounts lying there, and then I only need to access this once a week, or maybe even once a month, from a business user point of view, or from an IT administrator point of view, because I don't actually need to log into the database to do the work every day, for example. I only need this for firefighting purpose, for emergency access purpose. So those kind of identities should only exist when I need it. If I don't need it, they shouldn't even exist in those systems. So this is the idea of zero standing privilege. And there are technology out there, such as Saviynt's technology, to help you to achieve this principle and identity. And with the identity, when we establish a secure channel, and then you'll be able to assess that regardless where are you, whether you are in a corporate network, whether you are working from home remotely, whether your outsourced third-party vendors, maybe in the Europe or US, trying to assess your environment, and providing a secure channels for remote access with continuous monitoring and identify any risky behaviors. That is the ultimate goals that we need to enforce the zero trust principle. Now, lastly, this is one of my favorite slides, and a little bit technical, but however, from an identity point of view, governance point of view, you really need to have a modern platform with the modern technologies in the clouds. On the right-hand side, with all the necessary models, identity governance, vendor access, ERP application, business application management, privilege access management, and then with different modules with different capabilities that help you to cover all sort of identity use cases, and managing all different kind of platforms, different kind of identity in all applications. As you can see on the left-hand side, top left, the workloads, the business application, the bot applications, customers' applications, third-party applications, right? And different kind of employees, users that you are dealing with, so that all users are managed and governed. And from a technology point of view, you need to, on the top, the bottom right, you need to have very robust and wide coverage of application integrations. And because there are so many different kind of applications out there in the market, and you can build your own in-house application. So the identity governance solution must be able to integrate easily and in the shortest possible time with all those applications so that you can properly govern those identities. And lastly, is talk about risk. And we need to not only be able to automate and understand them, we need to have enough intelligence to tell you why this account should be exist, why those accounts need to be removed, and when should that be done. And those information do not exist in your application itself. They are maybe they're coming from other technologies, from, for example, your firewall, your Steam solution. So those risk information should be able to fit into the IGA platforms to make a smarter decision. So this is what really Saviynt is striving towards, to ultimately help all the organizations, whether they are big and large, whether they are still in the early stage of moving in the cloud, whether they are already in the mature stage of hybrid and multi-cloud environments, to effectively and securely govern their workforce and third-party contractor identities with very effective and cost-effective way. Okay, that's what I will share, like to share with the audience here. And thank you very much. And hand it over to Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Marco. You now and share your screen. Thank you. So where you're presenting, I was actually listening to you and I'm taking down notes. So I find it really interesting in the view that like what you mentioned, and let me reiterate that in the world where we are in right now, even with or without the pandemic, the world has been ever changing and revolving, and there are so many threats happening every single day. We cannot, to the point that sometimes we cannot adapt to it immediately due to the not being prepared with the info that we have right now, and we as an individual, of course. But I love the point when you mentioned that we can harness the power of identity in the cloud by keeping an intelligent identity warehouse. That you mentioned that we can do this by having the zero standing privilege, deep visibility, securing the channel, and that overall we can modernize our identity security strategy. I'm a very good student. I'm listening when you were presenting. But then again, and I think some of the audience here are aware that when Mark Zuckerberg announced in July 2021 about the metaverse, which is quite related to the movie we have watched, Ready Player One. Okay,
right.
So interesting. It's interesting to know how would the metaverse impact now the governance, the privacy, the identity, the fraud. No, my question is a bit futuristic, but being prepared, because the world went gaga over it when Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook mentioned about the metaverse. So right now we are just pertaining to the world that we see right now, but with the metaverse, there's still a lot of spaces that we are not aware of. So what do you think, and how would that impact the metaverse?
Yeah, that's really good question. That is really uncharted territory for almost everyone. And traditionally today, I would still think that identity governance mainly deal with the corporate kind of identities, but there's another areas which is consumer, the you and me, in this metaverse environments, when we play game, where we are interacting with whatever online application out there, we are pretty much on our own. In a way, we are not really governed by certain organization. So the governance is something that I'm not sure whether there's even a regulations that really governs that and how our identity should be managed in those virtual environments. So that's the first thing. First thing, I think there need to have some kind of regulation in place, and especially helps to address the policy issues, the privacy issues, right? And how those information should be shared. And then the other is the safeties. Are we even safe in those environments where we are interacting with in the virtual environment? So I think there are two sides here. One is from the governance perspective, organization or certain entity need to advocate certain processes and regulation out there, so that whatever technology vendors that provides this kind of technologies should build their technologies and around that to properly manage the consumer identity that are out there. So on the other hand is the technologies, and the technology is we should adopting from the developer point of view, the developer should really adopting more secure approach. And we always use the term of shift left, right? And in the today's environment, so and the developer is really the one that press the buttons that you get roll out all the services out there into the market. I believe in this virtual environment, this is going to be same thing happen. And so the developers need to be educated and also need to have a proper tools and technologies to start thinking about securities when they build their technology inside there, use the best practices, use the open standards, use the security technologies to help to safeguard all the identity access that each of us are using access the virtual environments.
Okay, very well said, Marco. So yeah, metaverse is a playground. So when there's a playground and it's a new environment, we tend to become children. But I agree with you when you say that there's no government regulation yet, but I think it's more of self-governance. And yeah, so I think moving forward, we also have another question. AVP Francie, VP Apple or VP Jessie, go ahead. I think they also have questions as well for you.
Hi, President. So yeah, I have a question here. So Marco, if we have a single sign-on technology in place, do we still need identity governance or IGA solution? And what are the differences between SSO and IGA?
Right, good questions. Let me give you this analogy here. Imagine you have a card to access a hotel or your buildings, right? You own the buildings, or maybe you manage the building. So that access card allows you to access the building in the first place. Now, from identity management point of view, we call that authentication. So we get in. Now, the next stage is what you can do inside a building, which levels that you can go, maybe which rooms that you can visit. So that is called the fine-grained entitlements or permissions within the applications or system. So we call that authorization. All right. The third thing is what have you done inside the building? Which floor you visited, which room that you went in, what kind of meeting you have conducted. So that is the activities that you perform within the building or in your application after you log in. So that is called an audit. So I like to call the triple A's: authentication, authorization, and audit. Now, single sign-on solution is access management solutions. We call the authentication. That is the first thing that get you through the door. IGA solution deal with the next two: authorization, what you can do after you get in the door, and what have you done, and ensure the right people have the right access at the right time. So that is identity governance. So these two goes hand in hand. Organization cannot just have one solution that think that I will be managed. I'm really comfortable. So that is the major difference between the two.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, we would like to encourage the audience as well to post their comments or their questions in case they have. Bago muna yung mga pabati, I believe AVP Francie, you also have a question? Or
Yeah, Yeah, I also have question, Marco. So can Saviynt solution manage applications identities on both on-premise and cloud environments?
Yes, certainly, right. As you know, most organizations don't just 100% in the cloud, or today, nothing in the cloud at all. So they are hybrid environment. So when we, like I say, our vision is to help organizations manage and govern identity across multiple environments, across both on-prem and cloud environments. So we do have a technologies, though our solutions is in the cloud and SaaS-based, but we do have a technologies that allows organization to connect our SaaS platform into the customer's on-premises environment so that they can manage the identity across hybrid cloud environment. In fact, all our customers are hybrids. I have not even seen a customer as 100% cloud.
Yeah, maybe because of the informations. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the answer. AVP, VP Jessie, do you still have question? Because I also do. I still have one. So yeah,
Alright.
proceed. Okay, so what are actually the challenges in terms of the technology on identity management that you see when maintaining core systems in hybrid environment? Since you mentioned that there's a hybrid, so either cloud and on-premise.
Okay, all right. And so the biggest challenge today, still technology challenge we see is we call our term, we call the application onboarding. And the actual meaning is the integration with those corporate applications that every organization are using. We have seen in the last 10 years, those organizations who have deployed identity management solutions, especially identity governance solutions, did not really make full use of the investment. They only integrated with handful, maybe less than 10 applications in our whole identity programs. That really defeat the purpose of identity governance solution and the programs. So, and today, again, onboarding those applications, integrating those applications for identity lifecycle management is not a simple task. Those Saviynt solutions really have very advanced capabilities to really help ease the onboarding. So we have been able to help the organization to implement the projects from 3 to 4 months instead of during the old days 6 months to a year. But having said that, the most difficult challenge and most efforts that spend in the identity program is still the integration with the third-party applications from a technology point of view.
Good. Okay, thank you so much, Marco.
I think I have last question here. I think last na ito. So Marco, what are some of the best practices on credential management that teams following SecDevOps should consider when migrating applications to the cloud?
Right. So this was actually a very hot topic last year, and as I mentioned earlier on, that's the shift left concept. So the many organizations today do not really put a focus on the security in terms of DevSecOps process. That is partly due to the immature of technologies, and many new technologies are introduced, especially tools, and also the involvement of developers. So the first thing from the best practices point of view is, my personal opinion is to have a well-defined security program and process and re-evaluate your environments. And when you introduce DevSecOps process in place, because DevSecOps is not just a technologist, right? It's a paradigm shift. When this new process is introduced, when the new tools introduced, when the new people are introduced, and you should look at your security governance programs and make sure that the right security measure, the right security tools, and right security technology are still in place. And then this is really the first thing. And then the second thing is credential management. Is make sure that you have the technology to help you when you choose a technology, choose a tools for the DevSecOps, and choose those tools that already have the integration with the vaulting kind of solution or integration with the secret management solution, and so that your secrets can properly manage and in the automated fashion and secure fashion. So that is the two really the tick points that I would like to say.
Thank you, Marco, for addressing all the questions. Saglit ko lamang po puputulin ang ating talakayan. Babatiin ko lamang yung ating audience for today. Buenas tardes din sa iyo, Mr. Carlos Alberto Reyes. At good afternoon, Sir Marlon Estrella. Magandang hapon daw mga ka-Pix Pro. Meron pa yata tayo mga konting pabati bago tayo. Kasi may bibigay yata sa atin si Miss May, mga apat. Pero bago ang lahat, sige go ahead. VP Jessie, mga pabati po natin sa audience.
Yeah. Magandang hapon mga kapitso. So medyo dumadami na ating viewers. So simulan natin dito. Nakakatuwa naman yung ating technology partner ngayon. Meron pa silang hashtag. So sabi ni Miss Sugar Joy, hashtag 𝐈𝐝𝐶, hashtag Pixpro. Hi Miss Sugar Joy. And also nandito si Miss Arlene. Hi Miss Arlene, good afternoon. And I think ito meron tayong foreigner na kasama ngayon sa ating viewers, si Mr. Rajneesh Sharma, career options for the cybersecurity professional. So tamang-tama kasi kami po dito sa NCR4 is maglo-launch kami ng job fair. So details to be announced soon. So pina-finalize lang namin, but definitely we will let you know. Okay. And then, good afternoon. Ito si Miss Ami, laging nanonood sa atin to every Friday from Fujitsu. Hi, Miss Ami. Good afternoon.
Hi, Ami.
At hindi ko papalampasin itong si Miss Shai Ganda, hashtag @iTraverse Strong.
Sobrang ganda
Diba?
niya.
Shy na maganda.
Maganda.
Diba?
And then, shout out VP Marlon. Hello, VP Marlon. We miss you.
And si Miss Ray, hi Miss Jen and Pix Pro team. Hello po, Miss or Mr. Bato, Ray Summer. Pasensya na at hindi ko makita. But anyway, so I think Jessie, tama po ba? VP Jessie, meron po yatang konting katanungan lang naman. Napakadali ng mga tanong na-prepare ni Ms. May.
Yes, actually naggulat nga ako nung sinabi niya yung pinorward sa amin yung questions. Very pamigay na talaga. At ito ay alam ko yung naabangan ng ating FB viewers. So eto na. Can we start na AVP Frenzy?
Ay, pero hindi naman magsisimula hanggat hindi nag-face reveal si Miss May. Walang...
Oo naman, Miss May, face reveal.
Go ahead po.
Yeah. Hi, everyone again.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so before we start, you know the drill na. So, of course, when answering, you just type hashtag PixPro and then the answer. Hashtag PixPro and then the answer. So, ABP Jessie, ako na ba ang magtuturo ng first question?
Yes, but before that, ito yung ating prizes for this afternoon. So yan. So siguro yung mga winners na lang is mag-PM na lang sa atin para mabigay natin or mabigay nila yung details nila para ma-forward natin yung plan. Okay, go ahead. For the first question.
Okay, keyboard warriors.
Yes.
Let's
Okay.
go. So
Are
the
you
first
ready?
question is, what is the name of our guest speaker?
Ay, ang hirap yan.
Napakahirap naman.
Sobrang hirap nito.
Grabe
Yes,
naman.
Jen.
Pwede bang mag-phone na friend? Paano ba?
Pabilisan ng type na lang to.
Alamin sa
Pabilisan niya lang to
meron
ng
lang.
internet ang labanan.
Ang bait ni
Giveaway na
May,
yan.
no?
Oo,
Talagang
have-
giveaway.
Nagbigay na talaga
Oo.
ng
Courtesy of
BP
iTraverse
Apple.
Solutions, of course.
Ayan, meron ng mga sumagot. So, I think we have a winner na. So, congratulations Mr. LJ Rufon. So the correct answer is Mr. Marco.
Marco
So hashtag PixPro and then the answer.
Congratulations.
Congratulations po. So as usual po, reach out to
Congratulations.
you po. Kukunin na lang po ni Miss May at ni the VP Jessie ang details po ninyo. Congratulations.
Yeah. For our second question, are you ready, guys? So second question, what solution is being highlighted for today? Okay. So what solution is being highlighted for today?
Pamigay talaga, pamigay.
Yes. Ito yung hindi ko malaman kung paano i-pronounce kanina.
Ha?
Kailangan ba pati pronunciation? Sasabihin, VP Jessie?
It has
Hindi naman
to-
i-type lang.
it has to be pronounced correctly.
Dapat ma-pronounce mabuti ni BP Jessie yan.
O, yan na, may sumagot na.
Kaya lang hindi ko dito yung correct spelling.
Alam mo, ang stricto. Ayoko itong kapalitan ng papel sa exam.
Stricto.
Ayoko itong kapalitan.
So, I think meron na tayong correct answer. So, the correct answer is tama ba? Tama ba, Miss May? So, congrats on
Saviynt.
Sugar Joy.
Yan.
Saviynt, yeah.
Medyo
Okay.
napuputol
Saviynt.
yung ano mo, VP Jess. Siguro pinutol na ng kapitbahay niyo yung wifi. Palit na ng password. Garbled na yung linya mo.
Yung kabilang kapitbahay naman, baka nakabukas.
Chairman.
So congratulations. Sino pong ating winner? Pakirepeat na lang po.
Miss Sugar Joy, Ampunan.
Congratulations po.
Congratulations.
May last question pa po ba tayo bago ang key takeaways po?
Yes po, AVP Francie for the third question.
Ito, very pamigay na talaga to, ha? So, okay. Who is our sponsor for today? Who is our technology partner sponsor for today?
Ayan, go!
Ang hirap.
Ang hirap. Sige na, go!
So, hashtag PixPro and then the answer.
Yan.
Ito nagkakahiyaan to.
Sige
Ako
na,
naman.
go!
Pwede ba tayo sumali? BP.
Ay, gusto ko
Jessie.
mag-join eh.
Nag-start ba sa letter I?
Parang gusto ko
Hindi naman ang
eh.
clue po.
Mag-PM na lang ako kay Miss May.
Oo.
Parang ay ata. Tapos nag-end yata sa E.
Oo.
Oh, wrong spelling,
Ay,
wrong.
naku, wrong spelling wrong.
Ano nandito yata sa taas natin? Ito, yan yun.
Oo,
Ayan.
yan.
Ayan.
Ito,
Ayan.
oh. Yan. You got it.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, winner. So congratulations, Miss Tintin Katigba.
Ayan.
Hi.
Congratulations, Miss Tintin.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Miss Tin.
So sa winners po, we will
Thank
get
you.
in touch with you po. Maaari pong i-DM namin kayo para po how to claim your prizes. So congratulations everybody. So meron na po tayong 1 minute, but of course,
Ang bilis naman ng oras.
oo nga, alam mo pagka ganyang nagkakakwentuhan, kaya naiintindihan ko rin yung mga kapitbahay namin sa labas kapag sa hapon talagang buong araw sila. Intindihan ko sila.
Kala nila isang oras lang, no? Pero maghapon na.
Oo. Anyway po, I want to hear first from Miss May or Sir Ned. Any key takeaways? Pwede pong pasasalamat, whatever. Give the floor to you.
May,
No, sir, I
May
give the
nakamute
floors.
ka.
Yep, I give the floors to you, Sir Ned. Thank you.
maraming salamat to everyone for joining this very, hopefully informative session. It's an hour that I think was filled with so much, I would say, data and information that hopefully we can bring to our practices, in ensuring we have a better and more secure and safe IT environment. So that's all, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Ned Sarate.
Thank you, Ned.
How about you, Miss May? O yun na po ba yun? Did I give the floor na to Marco?
Let me just say, in behalf of 𝐈𝐴Traverse Solutions Inc. and our partner here, 𝐺𝐸𝐸𝐴, and of course our Saviynt, our partner solutions for today, Saviynt Solutions, I'd like to say thank you again for giving us the opportunity. Thank you, PixPro.
Thank you very much, Miss May, and shout out as well. Ay, teka, saglit. Ko po ay, okay. Shout out as well to Wendell, our dance floor king. Wendell na wala po ngayon. Marco, any last words?
All right, thank you very much.
Takeaways,
Really,
not last
we're
words.
on
Takeaways, not last words.
Sorry.
Well, take away, take actions. Don't just sit on the problem that you have today. It's a journey, not something that you can just turn it on and problem goes away.
And I think VP Apple, go ahead, please proceed po.
Okay. So for me, as key takeaways, I have actually I have one additional thing to add to what Marco presented earlier. So what Marco presented earlier was really, he's right. If an organization is moving towards zero trust, IGDA is a really key solution to be able to achieve it. But just to correct, just to align, baka may some of you guys, there are some organizations out there are thinking, what about us who are right now still on implementing DID or defense in depth as a framework? Having IGD is still applicable in terms of if you're still using defense in depth. The only thing is that it will be a little bit more mas marami lang work na gagawin. There's a little bit more work to do, that you have to do IGD on every layer. But the beauty of it, once you have done it on every layer, you can actually integrate it and have a common identity access across your DID layers. So hence, you will still have that visibility. Likewise, let's also, when you are into DID, let's try to change the mindset a bit. Wherein most of those who are implementing DID is thinking that once you're inside the perimeter, everything is safe. I think that's a mind shift that has to be changed. And speaking of mind shift, what really struck me as a key takeaway that Marco mentioned was about the infinite game. I am a big fan of Simon Sinek. Read 3 books, Finding Your Why, Leaders Eat Last, and then The Infinite Game. So medyo yun, I have read 3 books, and guys, mga ka-PixPro, please do read that book. It's not only applicable to businesses, but it's applicable to us being future leaders of the organization, for us who will also become future cybersecurity leaders. It will also be applicable. So it's really in cybersecurity, we always say that we celebrate, as Mr. Chairman said before, we celebrate our victories per minute. Kasi after that, because our adversary, the hackers out there, are developing new techniques every minute. Thus, when it comes to the journey, it never stops. Cybersecurity is an infinite game.
Yeah.
You only declare a 1 game per minute. But after that, let's move on to the next game. Okay?
Very well said, VP Apple. Ganito yung gusto natin kabarkada nung college, VP Frenzy and VP Jessie, no? Yung parang laging prepared sa recitation. Yung
Diyan ako nakikipag-groupmate. Correct.
Oo. Ito yung tao yung hinahanap ko talaga. Anyway, so thank you very much once again, Team 𝐈𝐴Traverse, Team 𝐺𝐸𝐸𝐴, Saviynt, at dito sa PixPro, ang lagi po naming sinasabi sa cybersecurity,
Happy lang. Walang
weekend.
Maraming salamat po sa panonood.
Salamat.
Thanks everyone.
Ingat mga ka-PixPro.
Thank you. Happy